Welcome back to Dot Life. We are talking about the Neponset Greenway Trail today, and I'm excited to be joined by members of the Neponset Greenway Council. I'm joined by board members Maria Lyons.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, of course. And Paul Nutting.
Thank you for having us, Erin.
Absolutely. Glad you're both here. And Paul, thank you for the hibiscus. It's very pretty.
You're very welcome.
So tell listeners and viewers about the Neponset Greenway Council. What does it do? How many people are involved? Just tell us some of the details.
You said.
Well, I've been on the council for, 12 to 15 years. And I joined mainly because I love the Greenway, but I live in Savin Hill, and it was so difficult to get to the Greenway from Savin Hill. So I joined primarily to ensure that the section that just opened this summer came to fruition.
What was the involvement of the council?
So the council itself has been the advocate for, well over 20, 25, 30 years to get the different sections of the Greenway completed, along with DCR, obviously, because they own it, and they have the planning expertise, as well as our elected officials who have actually provided most of the funding for us.
Okay. And where do you both live? Are you both Dorchester
We're
residents?
both Dorchester. He's Savin Hill, and I'm Port Norfolk.
Okay, great. And how long have you been involved?
I joined right after Paul because he made me join. At the time, I'm living in Port Norfolk, and we were the Civic Association in the neighborhood was fighting a Schaefer paper, which was storing hazardous waste in the neighborhood. So we were trying to get them shut down, and we did get them shut down, and then we were trying to get it made into the park that the DCR promised us, or the MDC at the time, and then it became DCR. So we were working on that part of the Greenway Trail.
Is that the one that's right on the water?
Yeah, the Joseph Finnegan Park.
Beautiful,
now, yeah. And he came to our civic association asking for help on the new extension part, which finally got done. So we sort of teamed up, and my husband and I, John Lyons, who's the president of the Port Norfolk Civic Association, we joined with Paul to the Greenway Council, and they were a huge help advocating for both of these things, and the whole trail, really.
Yeah.
At the time, it was run by Boston Natural Area Networks, and then they disbanded, and for a short period, it was run by, assisted by the trustees of reservation, but it didn't really fit their agenda, so we ended up being on our own.
Okay.
And it's all volunteers. We do get a little help from NEPRA, both as an organizational person and some small amounts of funding sometimes to help us buy things when we need them for events and whatnot. So they're a big help to us. But we are primarily just probably about 15, 20 main people who attend the meetings all the time, and then other people who come and go. So we've all become really good friends. I mean, it isn't just, the Greenway Council isn't just about the trail.
Yeah.
It's about in protecting the parks and environment around the trail. But one of the most important things we do is we connect the people in the communities along the trail, all the way from Dorchester, Savin Hill, Port Norfolk, Cedar Grove, Pope's Hill, keep going, Lower Mills, Mattapan, Hyde Park, Reedville, all the way to the end of Truman Highway. And on the other side, you have Milton and Quincy as well. We have Quincy members now as well as Milton.
Okay.
So we connect all those communities, all those people, and we've met people. It's great that I've met Paul, and he's right here in Dorchester, but we've also met people from all those communities all the way up, and we're all great friends now, and no one has an agenda other than to make life better for everyone.
So let's take a step back for a moment from the council, and let's just look at the river itself. I believe this is at least it was, possibly still is, a super site, or a highly polluted river. Tell me more about the river itself and that area and the parks around it and the areas around it. I know there's marshes in parts of it. So just let's start with the kind of history of the river itself.
Well, I mean, if you go way back, the history of the river, this area was frequented by the Neponset River Native Americans, part of the Massachusetts tribe, and they lived along the Neponset River up to the Blue Hills in the winter and then down in the summer to the marsh areas, and they fed off the food that you could get there. And they had farms, actually, too, where they grew vegetables, the beans and the corn and the wheat. They have it on their symbol.
Yeah.
But they were living here, and unfortunately, when the colonists come, they got along at the beginning, but that didn't last very long, and they eventually pushed them up into an encampment up at Ponkapog, which where the golf course is now. But so that's what happened. But right after they came in the 1630s, they started a mill on the river, and there used to be. I mean, if you look in old literature about Dorchester, they talked about how they could just put the baskets in the river and pull up all the fish.
The alewives.
Yeah,
right?
with no problem. The nets, they just, could and feed off them. So the early colonists really depended on the food.
And they were in, spoiler alert for next week's show, they were in some dire straits when they first came.
Oh,
there were some really hard winters they were not prepared for.
So they needed the food that they were getting.
Yeah.
But they wanted the mill to start grinding the corn. It was a grist mill. Iceville Stoughton was the first one, I think, in 1634.
That's exactly right.
And
he also had a monopoly on the alewives, so he could run the mill and sell the fish.
So they'd catch him at the bottom of the dam, but they couldn't get up to reproduce because they reproduce upriver. So right after the dam was built, the population goes way down.
Of course.
So
And this was right in Lower Mills, right?
That's the one right in Lower Mills, yeah.
Okay.
So, and then after that, there's more. There's gunpowder ones. There's and then the Baker chocolate one, and then there's ones that start producing hazardous waste from paper making and Polaroid type of photography chemicals and whatnot. And that released a huge amount of what they call PCBs into the water.
Okay.
And those mills were a little farther up where the EPA site is. And the soil in that area is one of the most contaminated areas in the entire country.
Wow.
And that's why they got the Superfund EPA fund. And cross our fingers, so far we still have the money.
Yeah.
So that should start soon, cleaning that up. And
is it not started yet?
Well, they kind of started, but, the whole process is still going on.
Yeah.
And they're trying to decide whether they should dig a certain amount down or more farther down and cover it up or get it all out now. That's still being discussed.
And what part of, is that further up into Mattapan?
It's, they call it the Three Islands in the middle. It's right after Mother Brook comes in, which is a whole nother story. Mother Brook comes in and joins up. So it's I think it's actually a little past Mattapan.
Okay.
Up towards Hyde Park.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where the kind of the worst part of the Superfund is, but the whole river is
because it's water going by,
right.
The PCBs can get picked up by the water, and right behind the dam at Baker's Chocolate, there's a huge supply of PCBs, stuck there in the mud.
Yeah.
But we still have it all the way down to Port Norfolk.
Okay.
Because I know the Port Norfolk Yacht Club a couple of years ago, they wanted to dredge because it gets muddy and they need to get their boats in.
Yeah.
And they ended up having to pay enormous amount of money because it was then considered hazardous waste because there's PCBs in it.
Oh my gosh.
Which is also true for the Neponset Wharf Marina that they want to put in. So it's going to cost, if it happens, it's going to cost them millions of dollars to clean that up because it's hazardous waste, even that far down at the mouth of the river.
Right. So there's not a lot of wildlife in the river, I would imagine.
Well, up to the dam, you get blues coming in.
Okay.
And the alewife coming in, but they can't go any farther than that.
Right.
They're stocking areas with fish, and then so they do come down.
Like in the marshy section?
No, they stock it way up in the ponds where they reproduce.
Okay.
So that you do get some fish up there, but it's really because the state is stocking the rivers, not because they're coming up the river like natural.
I don't think you would eat those, though, would you?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. A lot of fishermen don't bother eating the fish. They just like to fish.
Yeah.
But you can't eat the fish that are coming down the river.
Okay.
But you can eat the fish in the lower part of the river that are coming in from the harbor.
Okay.
Because those fish didn't spawn up in the river.
Right, okay.
The bluefish and things.
Yeah.
So we do have a lot of fishermen down in the Port Norfolk area during that season.
Yeah.
But other than, I mean, we have a lot of birds, an awful lot. We have piping plovers now in Dorchester.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
At across from Malibu and also at Teeny Inn, there are piping plovers. There's a
Yeah.
bald eagle at the Milton Landing.
Okay.
We have many, many egrets and great blue herrings in and around the marshes in the lower part. And then when you go up farther into the Blue Hills, you have deer and, hawks and things like
Yeah.
that. So, there is a lot of wildlife.
I've seen snakes on the trail.
That's probably, there's rattlesnakes up in the Blue Hills.
I haven't seen those on the trail.
But, and it's amazing. I mean, I grew up more in the lower end, going to Teeny Inn Beach and Malibu Beach, and those were sort of the only places that you were allowed to go to access the river.
Yeah.
Everything else was something, the drive-in and whatnot.
Yeah. The drive-in, where was that? Was that
the-
in Pope John Paul?
Pope John Paul was
Yeah,
the drive-in,
okay.
and then the dump.
Lovely. What a nice evening.
But then farther up in the river, where they finally put from Central Ave to Mattapan, they finally got that piece done, and there's a beautiful bridge there, the Harvest Bridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had never been up in that area, and if you go there and you stand on that bridge, you'd swear you were out in the middle of mid Massachusetts in the
Yeah.
Berkshires or something.
Really?
It's just beautiful.
So let's talk about that. So you've got this river that is beautiful, but also has some toxic problems. What made originally folks decide to build a trail along it?
So there used to be railways along
Yeah.
the river. And in 2002, at the time, Speaker Finneran put some money in to have the trail section from Pope John Paul Park to Central Ave completed. And then in...
Was that along the old rail trail?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yep.
because there's still the trolley there. So that's
Right.
not in...
It's not the same trail.
Got it.
They
No,
crisscross.
but if you see
Okay.
they're
Okay.
and they are side by side in certain sections, like from Butler Ave, up,
Yep.
further up. And then in 2017, as one of his last accomplishments, Governor Patrick put the funding in for the Central Ave to Mattapan section that
Okay.
Maria just referenced, with the two new bridges. The Harvest River Bridge, which is the purple one that's lit that crosses over from Milton to Mattapan. And then as you head further inland, we call it the Canopy Walk Bridge that takes you over the tracks at Mattapan Station.
Okay.
And we call it the Canopy Walk because it essentially brings you up into the tree canopy.
Oh, that's cool. I don't think I've been on that one.
Yeah,
That's very
that's really interesting, and it's sort of it's almost to the end of sort of the new section.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about Dorchester, so it does go further, up Truman Highway and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
And then thanks to some ARPA money and Rep Hunt and Senator Collins, we got the Morrissey to Tinian Beach section completed.
And that was when?
That was 2025. This just opened, sort of.
It goes near the gas tank? And,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We did have some issues with the gas company. I remember Rep Hunt's brother. He was Mayor Menino's environment chief, and one of the things that he asked for the gas company to do when they wanted to put in their solar array was to provide this, not so much right-of-way because it's not on their property, it's on Mass Highway property, but at least allow the proximity of the trail because, we used to have a boat ramp at the end of Victory Road that after 9/11 they closed the boat ramp because they, they were afraid of anyone coming anywhere near the gas tank.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've kind of had an embarrassment of riches over the past 20, 25 years to get that trail completed. And, like Maria said, it's brought a lot of different communities together, a lot of different people together. And once the decrepit part of Morrissey Boulevard is completed, I mean, it will be sort of the harbor to the hills, all the way from, Castle
Castle Island,
Island all the way up to the Blue Hills. And
What's the time frame on that?
Well, in my mind, I don't think we should wait for Morrissey Boulevard to be completed because since I've lived there well over 30 years, there's been different iterations of reconstructing Morrissey Boulevard, and I think at this point, the sidewalk, if you will, or what would be the trail, is pretty decrepit.
Yeah. This is over the bridge there on Morrissey?
This would be along sort of north of the bridge towards UMass Boston.
Okay.
Once you cross the bridge, you're on the new trail section heading inland or
The bridge
upstream.
itself, though, is also pretty crumbly.
The bridge itself, and there's control arm gates that come down when the bridge opens, and some people are afraid to sort of squeeze by them on their bike. I've done it so many times that I'm used to it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will walk their bikes through there. But then, heading towards UMass, that section, it's just, all crumbling. It's sand. There's tree roots growing up through the pavement. It's just, it can be dangerous. And it's very narrow, too. And now we're seeing so
Very
much more
close to
use.
traffic. Yeah, right.
We're seeing so much more use with walkers, cyclists, people with strollers and whatnot, that it needs to be widened and the surface needs to be smooth.
Now, that sidewalk is right adjacent to the lane of traffic, right? There's no green barrier in between?
There's, I don't know, like a foot or two of, I wouldn't call it green. It's sand, dirt, and I guess a little bit of green.
Yeah, okay. So it's pretty hazardous. So we definitely want to connect those two pieces. What can people do to help encourage that? Who should they be lobbying?
Well, I think that they should be lobbying the Morrissey Boulevard Commission, which just, extended its life cycle, as well as the elected officials. A lot of people get confused by city properties versus state properties. This is all state.
Yeah.
Morrissey Boulevard is, owned by the DCR, helped managed by the Mass Highway Department.
Yeah.
So, until you get to UMass Boston, which is obviously a state institution, which a couple of years ago they repaved that whole section, which I was really happy to see. That whole area is a state project. So we need to have people put pressure on, state officials. In the current iteration of the Morrissey Boulevard plan, there's supposed to be like a berm, if you will, to try to protect Morrissey Boulevard from any overwash. And on top of that berm would be the trail. But as I mentioned, we've been waiting,
decades.
35, many decades, to have Morrissey redone. And I don't think that we should have to wait for Morrissey to be redone to have that sidewalk/trail brought up to modern standards.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Talk about the artwork. There's a lot of artwork all down through, between, Central Ave and then all the way up through.
Right.
And then the new section also has artwork.
Yeah, so back when we were under the auspices of Boston Natural Areas Network, under Valerie Burns, we started to have summer trail groups of youth that would come and paint the murals. Over time, some of the murals have faded. Some of the ones that are built on wood have, degraded.
Weathered, yeah. What were we talking about timing-wise? This was the 20...
So this was
2000s?
The 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so these murals are 25 years old.
Yeah, some of them are. I mean, some of them are relatively new.
Yeah.
But for instance, the ones that are along the rail bed near Baker Chocolate, those are kind of beyond repair.
Yeah. They're beautiful, but they are definitely aging.
Yeah. But as luck would have it, we had our meeting back in May, and we were talking about how can we restore some of these murals. And I happened to be at the Dorch Fest and ran into an old friend, Carl Pastori, who used to be the regional manager for DCR and was always our go-to person
Okay.
for problems along the trails or the beaches or whatnot. And he said, "Hey, Paul, I'm part of this group called the Blue Hill Bohemians, and we were thinking about doing some repair of the murals along the trail." I said, "Well, if this isn't serendipity, I don't know
Right.
what is."
Right.
Like a week or two after our meeting. And then we got Vincent Crotty involved, who's a famous Irish-born Dorchester artist.
Okay.
So a couple of weekends over the summer, we had groups of people come and do some restoration. And actually this weekend, we have people going out to do some restoration.
Of the existing murals.
Of the existing
Okay.
murals,
Okay.
yes.
Any new artwork going up?
Well, at the new, what's the name of that condo building on Morrissey?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the imprint.
Imprint,
Yes.
yes.
They put up a board with beautiful birds on it.
Yeah. That was very pretty.
But Vincent and
Blue Hill
the
Bohemians.
they want to do a new one as well.
Okay.
And Vincent wants to do a marsh natural scene, and the Bohemians want to do a trolley.
Okay.
So we're looking at the tunnel near.
Like Cedar Grove Cemetery, like that?
Yeah, that area there,
Okay.
and one side would have the trolley, and the other side would have the marsh.
Okay.
So they're all for. They want to continue adding more murals to it.
Yeah.
There are some restrictions. They have to be approved by the DCR, and they're supposed to be more natural type things and
Yeah.
whatnot. I think they'll let the trolley slide.
I
though,
hope
'cause
so.
that
It's
kinda-
pretty relevant.
He's been in there so long.
Yeah.
But we've been having a great time, and this is a joint project between Vincent and the Bohemians, the DCR. NEPRA is doing a lot of work with us on this as well.
Okay.
So we're having a great time, and we can always use more help.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, though. I mean, it's more like paint by number. We're going over what
Like the stencil
Vincent
or
will mix
something?
up the
Yeah.
paint so it matches the color and tell us what to do, and we kind of do the main color, and then he'll make it look really nice.
I was gonna say, I
Along
don't know
with
if
the
you want me helping with
Bohemians.
the mural, but if it's that easy, maybe.
Yeah, so we could always use more help, and I
Yeah.
think there's a sign up on the NEPRA site, the
Okay.
Neponset Watershed site for that.
Do you do that into the winter?
Well, we can only do it for another month or so.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And then we'll start again.
What other family activities? So, how do people use this trail? I know that first of all, there's just the basic walking.
Well, now that
Jogging.
most of the trail has been completed,
Yeah.
even though we're still advocating for up to the Trailside Museum and to fix along Morrissey, we're trying to do more programming.
Okay.
And we do environmental stuff as well. There's all sorts of committees around the Neponset River, and the Neponset Greenway has people on many of them about the estuary or about the EPA, the hazardous waste, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're involved in most of those committees that are in and around. And some of them are city, some of them are state, along with NEPRA
Okay.
as well. So, but we're trying to do more programming, and we have had walks and bike rides that are sponsored by us.
Okay.
But we also help out on other bike rides, like Mattapan on Wheels came all the way from Mattapan to Teeny Inn, and we provided stops for water and cookies and stuff along the way. So, we try to be good hosts as well.
Yeah.
But we have a couple of really nice family events, one coming up, so can we push it? Is this
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We have our biggest family event. It's called the Pumpkin Parade.
Okay.
We used to float pumpkins down the little creek at Pope John Paul Park, but the DCI got a little upset after that because it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of work getting the pumpkins out.
Do pumpkins float?
We
Pumpkins
put
float?
them on floats. We had
Oh, okay.
floats, yeah. So anyway, now we made that into a pumpkin parade.
Okay.
And it's the same location in Pope John Paul Park near the Haller Street entrance, and it's mostly geared for little ones.
Yeah.
But we have a great time, Paul and I and the rest of them.
Costumes?
They come in costumes.
Okay. Do you?
Some of them do. I usually just wear a little funny headband or something.
I went orange.
Yeah, we wear orange. We try to look like pumpkins. But the kids come in costume, and some of them bring jack-o'-lanterns, and we put a light in it, and we put it on the bridge, and we've got the bridge all lit up with orange lights. and then a pathway set out through the park where along the way they'll pick up little trinkets like spider rings and stickers, and then candy, of course.
Yeah.
And the DCR supplies the DJ, so he plays all sorts of Halloween music,
Nice.
and it's just great.
Is this at night?
It starts at 5:30, so the sun does set.
Okay.
By the time we're done, it's dark, but they do put up a few emergency lights for us, so we're not completely in the dark. But the kids love it that they're in the dark,
Yeah.
you know. But it's safe because
Yeah.
we have the emergency lightings and the DCR watching
And
over
what
us.
day is this?
This will be Thursday, October 23rd. It starts at 5:30.
Okay.
And there's lots of flyers going out on social media on that as well, so people can see that. Or they can just it's on NEPRA's website as well, because they help us with that too. They help us with everything pretty much.
Now, do people need to sign up, or is it just?
No, it's all free.
come?
You just
Okay.
come, and last few years we've had over 500 people. So
Wow.
and it's great just seeing them coming over the hills when it's
Yeah.
time, and all in costume, and we have lots of fun.
That's really cool. Yeah. What else happens on the trail?
So can I just interrupt Maria
Sure.
for 1 second? She keeps saying NEPRA. It's the Neponset River Watershed Association. And as she mentioned, we were on our own for a while. We had no sort of official, governing group.
Yeah.
But then Neponset River Watershed Association picked us up probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And we have some really good staff there who help us. Andres Ripley and then Suzanne Hinton. And this summer we had an awesome intern. He's originally from Dorchester, but
Okay.
he moved out to the Foxborough area. But his name is Neil Cahill. But
Okay.
he was really instrumental in getting these murals refurbished.
Awesome. That's great. So you are really a grassroots org that then kind of became officialized.
Yeah. I
Nice.
mean, under the
Yeah.
auspices of a couple different groups, but we're really sort of self-run, and we recently became a 501c3, so
Okay.
hopefully we can raise some money for these different events.
Yeah. So tell me a little more about events that you hold and also ways that people on their own use the trail.
Well, we also have sort of educational environmental events too. We hold a King Tide event, usually in the spring when the spring King Tide is occurring, and people come and we teach them about what is happening, why is there a king tide, why is it getting worse, and Teeny Ann floods really badly, and so
Morrissey floods really
you
badly.
can see, I mean, while we're standing there having the conversation, the tide comes in, and
Wow.
they see it actually
Yeah.
coming in. And
Is king tide is when it's high tide and a full moon? Is that right?
it's always high tide when there's the highest high tides when there's a full moon.
Okay.
But in the spring and the fall, the Earth is closer to the moon, so
Okay.
it's even bigger
Okay.
high tide, and that's the king tide.
Okay.
But you get Teeny Ann gets flooded every full moon now and
Yeah.
every storm, no matter what. And
So let's talk about climate change a little bit because sea level rise is already evident here. What are the protections or the plans to help the Greenway Trail survive?
well, there's no specific plan for the Greenway Trail.
Okay.
But the different areas have plans. Like there's
Okay.
a Morrissey plan. There's a Teeny Ann Beach plan.
And these are from the
The
state.
Climate Ready Dorchester.
Okay.
From Climate Ready Boston. They have some plans of things that we're going to do, but they also have the Army Corps of Engineers coming in now, and they want to change those a little bit, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But that's the Port Norfolk Civic Association is part of a pilot program for Port Norfolk, all about the flooding, because we're one of the worst neighborhoods, which includes Teeny Ann Beach
Yeah.
and the trail.
Okay.
So I took pictures of the trail today. It was flooded today at Teeny Ann.
Because it rains
Yeah.
so much? Yeah.
Well, no, because it was the
Oh,
the
and,
king.
yeah.
It was both.
And the rain.
Right, it was both.
Triple whammy. Yeah.
But it also floods over near the cemetery, that end there.
Yeah.
Other than that, it doesn't flood because you're going to hit the falls,
Right. Okay.
but it does flood during big rainstorms.
Yeah.
So even above the falls was flooding in areas just from the rainfall
I've
coming
seen it
down.
quite full there. Yeah.
There's two storms in 2018. We had a tremendous amount of flooding. The water was coming down the river and coming in from the ocean at the same
Yeah.
time. So it was hitting the bottom of the Granite Ave Bridge, the water.
Okay.
That's how high it
That's-
was.
yeah.
And we were completely cut off from the rest of the city, Port Norfolk neighborhood. We couldn't get in or out.
Wow.
So
That must have flooded all of that park area too.
the
and-
entire,
yeah.
not just the parking lot at Tinian, all the way to the expressway embankment.
Wow.
So Morrissey Boulevard and that whole neighborhood
Just
close
wiped
to
out,
it
yeah.
was all underwater.
Wow.
Neponset Circle was underwater. So
Yeah.
we couldn't get in or out.
Yeah.
So nobody in Port Norfolk does not believe in climate change.
Yeah, sadly. What about safety on the trail? Is it lit? Is there patrols at all? Have you had any incidents?
Well, technically, it's supposed to be a dawn to dusk
Okay.
use. However, we just had our meeting last week, and I rode my bike back from the Loop building in Mattapan back to Savin Hill. And the only lights are at the Harvest River Bridge.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was dark. Luckily, I have a headlight on
It's
my bike.
quite dark, especially going around like Pope John Paul Park. There's not a lot of light in that area. It must have been a little spooky.
Yeah, it wasn't that spooky. I was just afraid a deer would run out in front of me or something.
Yeah. I've also seen coyotes in Pope John Paul Park, so
Yeah,
watch
I
out
mean,
for that.
Most of them are more afraid of us
Yeah,
than we are of
yeah.
them, so I'm not really concerned about
Yeah.
that. But there have been a couple of incidents over the years, but I don't know that they were that the trail was sort of the cause of it. I think there were, just like a lot of sort of known unknown violence that happens in the city.
Yeah.
It just happens where it happens. It's not.
It wasn't because the situation lent itself to a violent situation. It was
Right.
people happened to be there when they committed the violence. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. What is forbidden on the trail? Can I take an e-scooter?
I think you can take an e-scooter. That's one of the things we've been talking about lately because I ride an e-bike now. I'm retired. I'm old. I have graduated to an e-bike for most of my errands. As a matter of fact, I rode it here tonight.
Okay.
It's just much more convenient than getting in the car and driving everywhere. One of the things that we like to impress upon people is that this isn't sort of the Lance Armstrong training ground, for speeding cyclists.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, go out on the streets. And one of my biggest issues is keep to the right. If everyone would just keep to the right, you wouldn't have problems or potential problems with, collisions and whatnot.
Also, the communication. I often will have someone whiz by me on my left, and I had no idea they were there. So just a little bell.
I mean, that's something that I do all the time is on your left,
Yep.
your left, but it's not helpful when people have earbuds in or, God forbid, like these type of headphones because they can't hear
Nothing.
anything around them, and you're
Yeah.
practically upon them before you shout into their ear
Right.
on your left,
Right.
So if people would just keep to the right and, try to keep dogs on a short leash as opposed to just wandering around. Another thing, if you're taking a phone call and you want to take some pictures, move off the side of the trail. Don't stand in the middle of the trail because it
Yeah.
is kind of a through way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people have to realize it's not just a bike trail or just a walking trail. It is a shared bike walking trail.
Right.
So both the walkers and the bike people have to be more considerate and watch out for each other.
Yeah.
But I've been scared by a few bikes too. And like you said, if they would just go zing zing,
Right.
or, on your,
Right.
like you say, on your left,
Yeah.
just so you know that they're coming.
Yeah.
Because it can be a little scary.
Yeah.
And there is a speed limit. Is it 30 or 15? 15?
No, we'd like to keep it at 15.
It's 15.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there is a
or
speed
less.
limit, even if you have an electronic bike,
Yeah.
that you're not supposed to go faster.
Okay.
Especially if you're in one of the park areas.
Yeah.
I mean, they go flying in Finnegan Park, and I don't know why. I think, like you said, they're using it as a training
Right.
session and trying to walk through the park, and you got to watch out for them. But
Yeah.
But not that they're not welcome on the trail. It's it's a bike trail too.
Right.
But just be a little bit
Be
more
mindful.
courteous. And
Yeah.
we're trying to come up with ideas to help with that. We just got the DCR to finish up a bunch of signs that were just wayfaring signs, telling distances from Tinian to Mattapan, things like that.
Yep.
and they put those up. And then now we're working on ones about more safety.
Okay.
And they did put up some where it had like all the rules on one thing, and they're great, but
Not if you're whizzing by.
not if you're whizzing by, So we need some
Yeah.
that just say, slow down, you're entering a park area, that type of thing.
Yeah. Some
So-
of those old like shaving signs where you get like a word per sign and you.
Yeah, we're thinking of putting them right on the road, the pathway with
Yeah.
stencils, slow down, park area,
Yeah.
slow down, pedestrians up ahead, so that they know. I mean, then if they're in a section where there obviously is nobody and they want to go fast,
for it.
fine. But
Yeah.
when they get to the park areas, they need to slow down.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Talk about landscaping and sound barriers. So especially in that new section, we actually took a walk down there, I don't know, September, August, and there were some new trees. I'm a little skeptical they're going to survive because it was like 87 degrees that day, and I think it had been for weeks and very little rain. But if they do, that's great. Is there any other landscaping kind of in the plan? And how much funding do you have for things like that?
No, there's no plans to put any soundproofing there. We could
It is
use it
quite
on
loud.
both sides of the expressway there
Yeah.
because it's very loud over at Teeny Inn as well.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It would be nice. I never even thought of that, and I saw you had written that, and I'm like, why haven't we ever thought of that?
Then you could do more murals, too.
Because I do see them in other areas. The state has put up soundproofing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something we'll work on.
Yeah.
Right now we're also we work on stopping the billboards from being put up and also being changed into digital billboards along the trail.
Okay.
So that's another visual thing.
Yeah.
Some people might not like the sound things because they might not like how it
They're
looks.
not, I mean, again, you could mural them,
Yeah.
but it is quite loud.
Yeah, it is very
yeah.
loud.
I'm a de facto expert on noise barriers because I have one next to my house.
Yeah.
They'll only build them to protect residences. They're not going to build them
okay.
to protect trails. It's just for residents.
I would imagine they're not cheap to erect.
No, I mean the one next to my house and several of my neighbors' house. I think it's like a half a mile long, and it costs
Yeah.
$3 million.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And that strip of trail by the, what we just called that building, Imprint building, is quite long. It's maybe not half a mile, but
I mean,
yeah.
I would like to see more vegetation there.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, there wasn't a lot of care or concern with the new plantings.
Yeah.
But hopefully there'll be more coming, and unless the contractor has officially signed off to DCR, then they've got to come back next year and replace
Oh, good.
whatever has died.
That's good.
One of my concerns about that section in particular, as well as the one next to the gas tank, is what happens in the winter when the snowplows are going by.
Yeah.
Because if you ever seen them at high speed along the highway, they pretty much project the snow off to the sides. And
Yeah.
is it going to, land on the trail? There's also sand and salt within that snow that's going to
Right.
get blown, onto the trail. So hopefully there's some thought given to that by DCR as far as plowing the trail.
Is there
when it's
snow
done.
removal of the actual trail?
There
from
is.
DCR? Okay,
Yep.
that's good. So
Yep.
it's a 4-season trail. You can use it
Yes.
at any time. Okay.
Yes.
How does the salt impact, the native plants, the native vegetation, and also piggybacking on that, invasives?
Well, the road salt, you mean, or
Yeah.
the salt water?
The
Because-
road salt, or this is going through some areas that have, not the nicest.
Well,
Like-
some of it is going in. They built that huge berm that the Southeast Expressway is on through Dorchester. That used to be all marsh and beach,
Oh wow!
and it was
Okay.
all filled in originally for the Old Colony Railroad, and then even more of it was taken for the Route
Expressway,
93.
yeah.
The water used to go all the way in through Malibu and then way up almost to Glover's Corner in Dorchester.
Okay.
So that has all been filled in. So, sure, it's artificial growth along that berm
Yeah.
anyway. But I do think the road salt definitely does affect what grows on that berm.
Yeah.
And most of it is just grass and a couple of shrubbery, not too many big trees.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they decided which trees to build in the new part, but hopefully they're salt resistant. There are some salt resistant trees. We did just the DCR is planting more trees in their parks, and they're going to be planting some new ones at Pope John Paul Park, and then we just got them to add 10 more to Finnegan Park, which we've always wanted more trees, through the Speak for the Trees organization.
Okay.
So, maybe if we need more trees there, we can figure out something with those organizations. If the DCI doesn't have the money, DCI has a lot of good ideas and things that they would like to do, but they don't have the money.
Right.
So maybe we could go through these other organizations like Trees for Boston or Speaks for the Trees to get even more trees in those areas, which would be nice.
You had mentioned, Maria, invasives. What are you seeing? One of the things I think I've noticed is the cattail-like invasive in the marsh that isn't actually a cattail. It's
the
like
Phragmites. Yeah. There's a lot of that in the main part of the marsh, and I don't know how they'd ever get rid of that.
No, I don't either.
There's a little bit starting to grow at Finnegan Park, and while we were talking about the tree planting, and we've done tree planting all along, all the different parks all along the Greenway. The council has helped to do that.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? She started looking at the park, and I said, the park, it's overgrown with this invasive species, and I don't even know what it was. And she said, I was there the other day. It's something called mugwort.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It even sounds terrible. It sounds like something from Harry Potter, But it's very high, and it's really ugly. It doesn't have any pretty flowers. It doesn't have any fruit for the animals. It serves no purpose at all other than taking the space of native species.
Yeah.
And it's almost completely overgrown the whole park. So she says we definitely need to do something about it. It's too much for us to take. Like, we've done small areas where we've gone and actually pulled invasive species and identified where they are for when the DCI needs to do it. But Finnegan Park is just so much we can't do it ourselves.
Maria, who is she that you're referring to?
Oh, it's the DCR shade planner. I don't remember their names, but they have a wildlife person. They have a lot of it was Ruth Helfeld. That's one name. She's the park planner.
Okay.
So she's in charge. Oh, she's overall in charge of the whole thing. And so they're agreeing that we need to do something about the invasive species, and they are going to allow Speak for the Trees to plant 10 more trees there.
Good.
So little by little, it's always little by little with the DC. How
Yeah.
long did it take to get the section that you wanted?
Well, I mean, it's, like I said, little by little, embarrassment of riches, just happy that I'm pretty sure it was ARPA money that came through for it.
Yeah.
But it just makes it so much safer for people coming from, Savin Hill or, other points, north, South Boston, other neighborhoods in Dorchester, the Polish Triangle and whatnot to get onto the trail.
Yeah. What if you were to ask folks to come support the work that you do? What do you need? I mean, do you need funding? Do you need volunteers? Do you need all of that?
We end up kind of being the workforce a lot. Sometimes it's just good hands, and a lot of us are getting elderly too. So we're looking for younger people to help with the murals, to help with the invasive species, to help plant trees, things of that sort.
Yeah.
We could always use money because if we had money ourselves, we could do more of our own programming instead of relying on other donations. We have a lot of donations for the pumpkin parade from all the local politicians, Senator Collins, Representative Hunt, City Councilor Finnegan, City Councilor Lejeune, Pepin. They've all been donating money for the pumpkin fund, but we have to do that every year.
Right.
And it's great that they do because the price of candy has gone way up.
Sorry to correct you again, Maria, but I think it's Councilor Fitzgerald, not
What
Finnegan.
did I say?
You said
I
Finnegan.
said Finnegan. I was thinking of Finnegan Park. I'm sorry. Thank you. Fitzgerald. Yeah. So they're all very generous and have donated year after year. But that's hard to do every year to rely on that. And like we said before, the Neponset Watershed gives us some money. They help buy a lot of the things for the pumpkin parade and the bunny hop and things of that sort. But we're thinking about maybe we should start applying for different grants and things for larger sums.
You just got your 501c3.
Just a few years ago.
So this would be tax-deductible donations.
Right. Yeah. So we're just working on that idea that we should start looking into applying for some larger grants and then we wouldn't have to worry so much and maybe do some more really good things with it.
Yeah.
So, Erin, I think one of the themes that you've probably heard before from different organizations or people that you've interviewed on the podcast is we need new blood to come in. You go to the Civic Association meetings, and for the most part, it's the people who have lived here all their life. The same thing with the Neponset River Greenway Council is that, most of the people are, 40 or better.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have some younger people involved and to get their point of view, too, because,
Right.
we see it from our point of view, but there are other, there are different points of view, as far as what programming might happen or, how else the trail might be used.
Yeah.
So we meet the first Wednesday of every month. We have rotating locations, but if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, it's Nep Greenway Council.
Okay.
And hopefully, we have had a few new members the past couple of meetings.
Yeah.
Which, and they bring new ideas and they bring people with them. Like one fellow works at Harvard, and he's going to bring some people out to help with the cleanup or help with the mural restoration. So,
Yeah, I mean, you've got something kind of for everyone. People who are more into the ecology, more into the art, the community, the events. So I think there's a lot of opportunities.
It isn't just bike people or walkers. Right. It's people. There are some people that don't do much of either of those, but they care about the environment, and or they just like to help with the programs with the kids. It's lots of fun,
right?
And, so we want to do more things for everyone. We also work on something I wanted to mention when you had mentioned about pollution before. That Nutting Beach is polluted. You cannot swim there, because of sewage from the Boston Water and Sewer System.
And potentially bodies, we heard in the last segment. That was...
Well, yeah, they dug up a few bodies there. We'll skip over that. But I think I actually saw them bury them.
That was news to me when Bill said that.
Honest to God, I think I actually saw them bury them. We were coming home late one evening, and there was a backhoe right in the spot where they later found the bodies. And it was like 2 a.m. We were out really
Who's
late.
Who's out doing
and
construction?
We were like, what is going on there? It was just like one of those little mini backhoes. And later on, that's where they dug up the bodies. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, I think we saw them bury them. Should have called the police, but we didn't. We thought it was the gas company or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's polluted, and I hope, I've seen news that they're going to start doing a study to try to fix it.
Okay.
So I hope that happens. But can you imagine if you could swim at Nutting Beach? It's connected to the trail, going all the way to Castle Island and all the way to Mattapan and Hyde Park. Kids can come all the way in their bikes with their families and go to the beach right there.
Right.
We need a nice bathhouse would be nice. It had a bathhouse. It burnt down. They never replaced it. But clean water, I mean, that would just be such a treat for the whole area, not just Dorchester, to be able to swim there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's end on a note about food. So when you're out in Dorchester, where are you going to get your dinner?
You can go first.
It's so difficult because there are so many great restaurants in Dorchester.
Yeah.
But living in Savin Hill, can I mention 2 of my new favorites?
Yes, please do.
One is the Nightly, which is above the Daily Restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They're running the test kitchen right now where they're trying to formulate what the menu's going to be. So that's on the 3rd floor. Awesome views.
I was able to check that out. Very nice.
Yeah. I mean, did you notice how the First Parish Church steeple is now lit? I mean, it's just such a beautiful view. But they're fitting out the 2nd floor. There's going to be a fireplace in there for people who, want to come and warm up on a cold night.
Yeah.
And then my second favorite new restaurant is the Dot Block Diner.
I've not been over there yet.
Yeah, the menu is fantastic. The ambiance is really nice, and the food is awesome.
Very good. I will check that out. Maria, how about you?
Well, a lot of the times we're just doing takeout, and I'm old school, so I'm talking, China Sky, Papagenos, Windy City. I just go old school. But if we go out to a restaurant in Dorchester, It's usually Venezia.
Okay.
And
That's in Port Norfolk. So
in Port Norfolk,
yeah.
and Venezia is really good to us. They give us a buffet of food for our Christmas party every year, the Port Norfolk Civic Association, and we invite the Greenway people to that. You've been to that a few times, right?
Yeah.
When Santa comes and we light our tree.
Nice.
So they're very good to us, but it's just the food is great. And I really like the service too. I like being treated nicely. You get treated nicely everywhere in Dorchester, but Venezia is just a little bit more elegant in the way they serve you, and it's just a nice evening out.
Yeah.
And we're friends with Ralph Bruno, who owns the restaurant, and we were talking when he first came into the neighborhood, and I says, "Oh, I love your meatballs and your sauce. It tastes just like my grandmother's." And he starts, "Well, where was your grandmother from?" He says, "Avellino." He says, "That's where he was from."
Oh, that's funny.
So they're from the same small town outside Naples. That's why the sauce and the meatballs taste the same. So I have to go to Venezia and get my sauce and meatballs.
We'll definitely check that out. Thanks for the recommendations. Thank you both for coming. This was an awesome conversation. I think you've also opened up some ideas for some other river and associated organizations that we may want to have on the podcast. So DCR is on the radar too. But appreciate the work that you've done. It takes folks like you to make things like this happen and get it to the point where it can be a 501c3 and an organization that people can really get excited about. But you've got to do the groundwork, and you all have done that. So thank you for your efforts. Really appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, and I wanted to thank also Bill Forey and the Dorchester Reporter, because they always advertise our events and everything for us, and they usually do a really good picture spread after the pumpkin parade. So we'll be looking for that in a couple of weeks. And
they're a neighborhood gem.
So
for sure.
they're good to us. They support us. Yeah.
Same.